Okay, here's the third and what will probably be the final installment of the video lecture series on our special topic of substance abuse for punishment and corrections, Bridge Valley Community Technical College. This is the last slide that you saw. So we kind of took a little jog through some of the major categories of drugs. Again, the attachment that I've sent you, the document, you can read through the other categories of drugs. I don't want to just read them all off to you. Kind of giving you an idea. Let's pick up here the youth use of illegal drugs in the U.S. by age. Percentage of youth between the ages of 12 and 13 who report using drugs within the last 30 days, the last month. 3.3%. That may not sound like a big number, but we're talking about 12 to 13-year-olds who are willing to admit that they've used drugs. When you get to the 14 to 15 age group, it's 8.9%. Of course, it continues to increase through the teenage years. By the time you get to 18 to 20 years of age, almost 1 out of 5 youth, adolescents, or young adults have used drugs just in the last month. And then it starts to taper off from the ages of 21 to 25. It goes down a little bit to 18.5%. So that 18 to 20-year-old age range, that's the age. Those are the ages within this country where you have the highest self-reported use of illegal drugs. So, factors that make a young person a higher risk for later substance use or abuse after that initial use include the following. Early initiation, use of any drugs between the ages of 10 to 12. Any kind of school problems. Again, I know we're kind of focusing on the youth here, younger people, but this is where the substance abuse problems generally start, so it merits discussion here, which eventually lands them into the criminal justice system and in an incarcerated setting. School problems such as low grades, truancy, missing school consistently, behavior problems, and again, outside what you would normally expect for an average student in a public school or a private school even in this country. Family problems such as lack of parental support, lack of parental guidance. Other factors that make a youth a higher risk for later substance use or abuse after that first contact. Peer influences, I can't overstate that enough. Relations with age-appropriate peers who use illegal drugs. If you hang around people who use drugs and alcohol at these ages, you are likely to be using illegal drugs and alcohol. Also, an inability to resist negative peer influence. Also, some personality factors come into play here. Young people with personalities that are non-conforming, young people who don't like to conform to the rules and norms of society or school or church, are at a higher risk to continue to use or abuse drugs or alcohol after that initial contact. Rebellion, and actually strong independence. You can even add high intelligence to that. The more intelligent, in terms of IQ, that students tend to be, the more likely they are to experiment and even continue to use drugs or alcohol, which is interesting. Now, this may be a little hard to make out. So we're looking at the different classes of illegal drugs that are being used by young people. And you can kind of see that heroin is really on the rise. Heroin use has made a very strong comeback, and it's probably, in my opinion, working in a correctional setting. It's probably, I would say, the drug of choice of inmates right now. You've got cocaine behind that, barbiturates, methadone, alcohol, benzodiazepines, your downers like Xanax, Klonopin, tobacco, etc., etc. Number of arrests by type of drug, law violations from 1982 to 2007. You can see that if you go back to the early 80s, number of arrests, you've got nearly 500,000 arrests just for possession. And of course, this trend continues up. By the time you get to 2007, we have nearly 1.5 million arrests just for possession of illegal drugs. So that's a threefold increase. So you got to house these inmates, these offenders somewhere. So we're talking overcrowding in jails. We're talking about building more prisons. We're talking about more taxpayer dollars to incarcerate these offenders, which has led to our discussion in class and the debate within society about decriminalizing and legalizing some of this. to take some of the fiscal burden away from society and to reduce some of the overcrowding. And we've got the sale and manufacture as well from the 80s. We got an uptick to the late 80s, and then it kind of levels off. So you're floating around 300,000 arrests in this country in 2007 for either the sale or manufacture of the illegal drugs, which is still, these are still big numbers of people that we're talking about and being incarcerated in our jails and prisons. Percentage of people arrested in terms of physical location. As you can kind of see, we'll kind of move clockwise here. At home, 32% are arrested within their homes. 30% are arrested at someone else's house. 9% arrested at a bar or a pub. 12% arrested at a club, party, or rave. 7% arrested on the street, in a park or an outdoor area, and then 9% somewhere else. Actually, not arrest. This is where they're using illegal drugs. I'm sorry. So this is where the primary use of illegal drugs occur. Again, 32% at home, 30% at someone else's home, 9% at a bar, 12% at a club, 7% on the streets, 9% somewhere else. So those are use, where people are using. If you want to look at drug arrests by age from the 70s to 2007, again, the trend has gone up for adults. In 1970, you can kind of see here, when we get into the 90s, drug arrests have gone up. You're looking at almost 1.25 million arrests, and these are adults that we're talking about. So the adult arrest rates have slowly climbed to 2007, where you're looking at almost 1.7 million arrests. Juveniles, conversely, the blue line that you're seeing, their arrests have generally kind of stayed level. Now, there are reasons for this. Is that to say that more adults use drugs than juveniles? Maybe. Maybe not, though, because police officers are more hesitant to arrest juveniles because they're young, they're children. So that's part of the equation. Okay, these are just arrest rates, but that's part of the equation here. Police officers tend to use a little more discretion when dealing with juveniles and are not as quick to make arrests as they are with adults, who should at this point in time maybe know better, perhaps. So, prison population rates per 100,000 people. As you can see, we are referred in the United States, if we can see here, right there we are. We are referred to as incarceration nation. We incarcerate more than 700 people per 100,000 population. That's a really, really high number. And you can kind of look around the rest of the world here, and you can see some places with the lowest incarceration rates are parts of Africa, some parts of South America. So the highest rates of incarceration, you've got the Asian continent, as you can kind of see up here. You have our country as well, the United States, and sort of everywhere in between. And that is it for the third and last part of the video lecture series on substance abuse. Thank you.